Imagination is the foundation of all invention and innovation. Wise words of J.K. Rowling, a celebrated writer of the Harry Potter franchise. Indeed, imagination is the key when you create something. You need to imagine when you write, you need to envision, eventually fashioning a world where all your brilliant thoughts can travel. Good day again, grade 11 learners. I am Sir Alexander Baria of Big 9 National High School Senior High Department, welcoming you all again to this world of creative writing. Writing requires loads of creativity, pinch of literary passion, and of course, a cauldron of patience. As a continuation, we will explore the following competencies. Identify the techniques and literary devices in various modes of fiction. Write journal entries and other short compositions exploring key elements and techniques in fiction writing. So dear learners, gear up and walk with me as I challenge you again to explore your inner literary skills and put it into writing. Before we begin, kindly listen attentively, take down important details from the topic discussed, and enjoy the rest of the discussion. Are you all set? Great! Empecemos! A detective's goal is to find resource objects in order to find evidences for his investigations. These serve as contributive factor in order to present a valid report for a certain case. So today let us play as a detective and let us search for evidences. A certain case must be solved, but these items must be the scenes of the crime. Let me show you the place. Help me find the objects that I need. In 1 minute, look for all these items. Timer starts now. Great job, everyone! What an eyesight! So keen and so focused. But if you did not find all the items, at least now you did. Being a detective is also like a writer, especially in writing fiction. A detective seeks evidences while a writer seeks writing techniques in the form of literary devices in order to garnish a story with beauty, style, and creativity. Before we begin with our main course, let me check again if you still remember these literary words by matching it with sample sentences. We have simile, metaphor, personification, hyperbole. So here are the sentences. Which among these is a simile? Correct! Like an angel, she sings with great passion. What about metaphor? Very good. I am an armor of light that can protect you. What about personification? Brilliant! Music massages my soul to bliss and glee. What about the last? Hyperbole. Very well done. Carry the world and be stronger. Splendid! Now you are truly ready for our main 3 alpha lesson. It is good that you still know and remember the most common figurative language, which are used in literature as literary devices. If the different elements of fiction as defined are universal or commonly present to literature, there are literary techniques and devices which are not universal, for they are not all present in stories, yet they contribute to better fiction writing. Do you know that literary devices are literary techniques used by fiction writers to convey messages and to help the reader understand fictional stories on a deeper level? These devices are often used for emphasis and clarity, figurative expression of messages, and connection to the story in a creative sense. Let me discuss one by one these literary devices as a technique in writing fiction. Let us start with the first. Alliteration is the commencement of 2 or more nearby words with the same letter or sound. Alliteration is often used in poetry and songwriting, along with assonance, the repetition of vowel sounds in words. For example, go slow over the road of snow. Another is consonance, the repetition of consonant sounds like
the babbling, bumbling band of baboons.
Next is allusion. Is an indirect reference to a person, place, event, or artistic work. Many allusions make reference to previous works of literature or art. For example, stop acting so smart. It's not like you're Einstein or something. This is an allusion to the famous real-life theoretical physicist Albert Einstein. Anachronism occurs when there is an intentional error in the chronology or timeline of a text, as a character uses expressions contradictory to this time period, usually for comedic purposes. For example, a Renaissance king who says, "That's dope, dude," would be an anachronism, since this type of language is very modern and not actually from the Renaissance period. Simile and metaphor. They are both forms of analogy, the illustration of one idea by a more familiar or accessible idea that is in some way parallel. Both metaphors and similes are often used in writing for clarity or emphasis. Metaphors are when ideas, actions, or objects are described in non-literal terms. In short, it's when an author compares one thing to another. The two things being described usually share something in common, but are unalike in all other respects. For example, you are a rose with thorns, fierce but lovely. Simile is a type of metaphor in which an object, idea, character, and action are compared to another thing using the words as or like. For example, this life is like a game. It is as challenging as the trials of combat. Apostrophe is used when a speaker breaks off from addressing one party and instead addresses a third party. This third party may be an individual, either present or absent in the scene. It can also be an inanimate object, like when you are talking to your phone, or an abstract concept such as death or life. When we pray, "O God, dear Father, I humbly beg for your forgiveness," or when we are singing, "O holy night, the stars are brightly shining, a well-known Christmas carol. Colloquialism is the use of informal language and slang. It is often used by authors to lend a sense of realism to their characters and dialogues. Forms of colloquialism include words, phrases, and contractions that aren't real words, such as gonna for going to, wanna for want to, and ain't for am not. Euphemism is when a more mild or indirect word or expression is used in place of another word or phrase that is considered harsh, blunt, vulgar, or unpleasant. For example, I'm so sorry, but it did not make it. The phrase didn't make it is a more polite and less blunt way of saying that someone has died. Flashback is an interruption in a narrative that depicts events that have already occurred, either before the present time or before the time at which the narration takes place. Foreshadowing is when an author indirectly hints at, through things such as dialogue, description, or characters' actions, what's to come later on in the story. It is like a hidden spoiler of a story's future events. Hyperbole is an exaggerated statement that's not meant to be taken literally by the reader. It is often used for comedic effect or emphasis, like, I'm so late, I must run faster than a light speed or else my teacher will eat me alive. Imagery is when an author describes a scene, thing, or idea so that it appeals to our senses, like taste, smell, sight, touch, or hearing. This device is often used to help the reader clearly visualize parts of the story by creating a strong mental picture. The sweetness of honey, the fragrant flowers, the relaxing view of sunset, the warm touch of your hands, and the mesmerizing sound of your voice. Irony is when a statement is used to express an opposite meaning than the one literally expressed by it. There are 3 types of irony in literature. First is verbal irony. It is when someone says something but means the opposite. For example, your explanation is as clear as a mud. Next is situational irony. When something happens that's the opposite of what was expected or intended to happen. For example, unfortunately, the local fire station was burnt to the ground. So a fire station can be burnt to the ground? Lastly, dramatic irony. It is when the audience is aware of the true intentions or outcomes while the characters are not. As a result, certain actions and events take on different meanings for the audience than they do for the characters involved. For example, you are watching a soap opera and you saw the actor will propose marriage to the actress. Yet, you are aware that this girl plans to leave the guy for another man. Truly an ouch of an irony. Malapropism. It happens when an incorrect word is used in place of a word that has similar sound. This misuse of the word typically results in a statement that is both nonsensical and humorous. As a result, this device is commonly used in comedic writing. For example, I just can't wait to dance the flamingo. In here, a character has accidentally called the flamenco, which is a type of dance, flamingo, an animal. Metonymy. It is when a related word or phrase is substituted for the actual thing to which it's referring. This device is usually used for poetic or rhetorical effect. For example, the pen is mightier than the sword, meaning writing is better than force and violence. Onomatopoeia is a word or group of words that represent a sound and actually resembles or imitates the sound it stands for. It is often used for dramatic, realistic, or poetic effect. For example, buzz, boom, chirp, creak, sizzle, zoom, and so on. Oxymoron is a combination of two words that together express a contradictory meaning. This device is often used for emphasis, for humor, to create tension, or to illustrate a paradox. But we will discuss that later. For example, deafening silence, organized chaos, cruelly kind, insanely logical. Paradox. It is a statement that appears illogical or self-contradictory, but upon investigation might actually be true or plausible. For example, here's a famous paradoxical sentence. This statement is false. If the statement is true, then it isn't actually false, as it suggests. But if it's false, then the statement is true. Thus, this statement is a paradox because it is both true and false at the same time. Personification. It is when a non-human figure or other abstract concept or element is given human-like qualities or characteristics. For example, the wind moaned, beckoning me to come outside. In this example, the wind, a non-human element, is being described as if it is a human. It moans and beckons. Repetition. It is when a word or phrase is written multiple times, usually for the purpose of emphasis and rhythm. For example, when Lin-Manuel Miranda, who wrote the score for the hit musical Hamilton, gave his speech at the 2016 Tony's Awards, he recited a poem he'd written that included the following line. And love is 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 love cannot be killed or swept aside. Repetitive, right? Lastly, synecdoche is a literary device in which part of something is used to represent the whole, or vice versa. For example, help me out, I need some hands. In this case, hands is being used to refer to people, the whole human, essentially. There are still other literary devices and figurative languages used in writing a fiction. It depends upon the writer to suit the best for one's story. It is your choice to choose whatever literary devices you want in your own story. Lights, camera, act. Oh, not yet. A good story needs to be written well first. So before we shout, action! Let us first write the scene. During your elementary and junior high school days, you might have written scripts for plays and acting performances, especially in your English classes. So in order to embrace this activity, let us summon again your wills, your writer's imaginative literary skills, and write up your own short fiction. Let us all be guided by the mechanics of this task. First, imagine that we will perform a play. Use the short story you have written yesterday as your basis of writing a short script of your own, written plot, characters, and other elements. Include at least 10 literary devices and techniques that we discussed in your short story script. Make it a 3-page or a 5-page script with your own style of narration. Use the same catchy title that you made with your short story to be used for your script, with your whole name as the writer again and your self-made names still following these rubrics for creative writing. writing your script, share your inner thoughts about your writing experiences through a 3-paragraph reflective essay. Let us include the following. Introduction, with a famous quotation or saying relevant with your script, with proper citation and explanations. Write it in 5 sentences. Also include the body. Write your thoughts about your story of fiction. Is it enjoyable, stressful, challenging, or whatever feelings you felt and the impact of this fiction writing task has become in you as a writer. From writing a short story to script writing. Write it in 15 or more sentences. Lastly is the conclusion, with your overall impression of the writing activities, your final message, parting questions, or recommendations for the readers of your written work. Write it with 5 to 8 sentences. Kindly submit all your writing outputs, the short story, the script, and the reflective essay by uploading it all in our Facebook group with your name and section. After accomplishing these creative writing tasks, I encourage you all to continue writing fictional stories during your free time, whether by script or by narrative. I hope that these activities will help you find reading, especially writing fictional stories, an interesting pastime. I congratulate you all in advance as you accomplish these tasks. If you want to be a writer, you must do 2 things above all others: read a lot and write a lot, according to a best-selling author named Stephen King. It is indeed challenging to create stories, yet fulfilling if you find your passion in making meaningful and inspiring works of literature. Let us all read and write our own imaginative world based from our life's reality. Isn't it magnifiction? Isn't it terrifiction? Thank you so much once again for being with me today. I hope you enjoyed this creative writing journey. Always remember, read more, write well, create a masterpiece. This is Sir Alex signing off, wishing you again the safety in your home, wellness of health, and the greatness of day. God bless everyone. See you all.